You open the app, you swipe right, you wait, nothing. You swipe right again, still nothing. Then, a match. You send a message. You wait 3 days, they never reply. You close the app, stare at the ceiling, and wonder why you even bother. Now picture this. A man, somewhere in the Upper Paleolithic around 40,000 years ago, he spends 2 hours carefully crafting a necklace out of drilled fox teeth. Archaeologists actually found these at Arene Candide cave in Italy. He walks across camp, hands it to a woman, she looks at it, she looks at him, she walks away. Same disaster, different century. Here's the thing I couldn't stop thinking about when I started researching this. We act like dating is broken now, like apps ruined everything, like we invented romantic rejection and social anxiety and the misery of putting yourself out there. We didn't. We inherited all of it from people who didn't even have shoes. Here's the argument I want to make, and I'll stand by it. Modern dating didn't get worse, it just got faster. The fundamental mechanics, the signaling, the anxiety, the humiliation, the hope, those are 40,000 years old, maybe older. What apps did was compress the whole painful process into a 4-inch screen, but the feelings? Identical. And once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. What prehistoric courtship actually looked like tells us something real about human nature. Not romantic human nature, just human nature. Awkward, desperate, trying too hard human nature. We're talking primarily about the Upper Paleolithic period, roughly 50,000 to 12,000 years ago, though some of what we know applies even earlier. These were anatomically modern humans, Homo sapiens with brains identical to yours, living in small bands of 20 to 50 people across Europe, Africa, and Asia. Think Lascaux cave paintings. Think the Willendorf Venus figurine. Think people smart enough to plan hunts weeks in advance and dumb enough to still completely fumble at romance. Our best living comparison for this world is the Hadza of Tanzania, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer communities studied extensively by behavioral anthropologists. Their courtship patterns, alongside the archaeological record, give us the clearest picture we have of what early human dating actually looked like. Spoiler, it looked a lot like a group chat nobody answers. Fact 1. The gift problem. Modern dating has love bombing. Prehistoric dating had gift hunting, literally. Studies of Hadza courtship behavior by anthropologist Frank Marlowe at Harvard show that men who were successful hunters had significantly more reproductive success, not because strength was attractive, but because demonstrated generosity was. Bringing back a large animal and sharing it publicly was the Paleolithic equivalent of posting a photo from a nice restaurant. You weren't feeding people out of kindness, you were advertising. The archaeological record backs this up in a strange way. At sites like Sungir in Russia, dated to around 34,000 years ago, researchers found grave goods, beads, mammoth ivory jewelry, decorated spears, buried with individuals who had no obvious physical advantage like large stature. The conclusion? Status signaling through objects was already a fully developed social technology. These people were flexing in graves. I find that equal parts impressive and deeply relatable. Here's my reaction to this. When I read about the fox tooth necklace, I assumed it was some kind of mystical or spiritual object. Nope. Current interpretation leans strongly toward it being a personal ornament for display. It was jewelry for attracting a mate. He made his own jewelry, carried it across camp, and got rejected anyway. I feel that in my chest.
Fact 2. The audience problem. Here's where it gets worse. In a band of 20 to 50 people, everyone saw everything. There was no quiet rejection over text. There was no reading a vague, haha, yeah, as ambiguous. If you got turned down, the entire social group witnessed it. The fire was communal. The camp was small. There was nowhere to go. Research on the Kung San people of the Kalahari, another extensively documented hunter-gatherer group, shows that mate choice in small band societies is heavily influenced not just by the two individuals involved, but by third-party opinions, parents, siblings, friends, and the group's general consensus about whether a pairing made sense. Sound familiar? That's not just your mom asking about your love life at dinner. That's an ancient social system designed to evaluate your romantic choices out loud and in real time. The modern equivalent isn't Tinder. It's Tinder where your entire office can see your profile, your matches, and exactly how long you've been on the app without a date. That's what prehistoric courtship was. Public, witnessed, commented on. Fact 3. The speed problem. Here's the one that surprised me most. We assume arranged or heavily family-influenced marriages are an old invention, something that came later with agriculture, property, and patriarchy. But Hadza ethnographic data suggests that even in egalitarian hunter-gatherer societies, the average courtship period before forming a long-term pair bond was weeks, sometimes less. Not because people were romantic and impulsive, but because resources were precarious. A band couldn't afford to have its members in extended, uncertain courtship indefinitely. You figured it out fast, or you didn't. Compare that to modern data. A 2020 survey by the dating app Hinge found that the average user spends 77 minutes per day on dating apps and goes on approximately 1 to 2 first dates per month before forming a relationship, a process that takes, on average, over a year. We have more options, more time, more safety, and we are dramatically slower and more anxious about commitment than people who lived in caves. That's the irony that kept me up at night. Here's the thing nobody talks about. Prehistoric people didn't just have less choice, they had better feedback. On a modern app, you can be rejected 100 times and never know why. The algorithm doesn't tell you.
The ghost doesn't explain. You spiral. You wonder if it's your photos, your bio, your face, your opening line. You update your profile at 11 p.m. in a low-grade panic. This is a uniquely modern experience, not rejection itself, but rejection without information. In a band of 30 people, if someone wasn't interested in you, you knew why within a week. The social group made it clear. It was brutal, yes. Public, yes. But it was legible. You could actually learn from it and adjust. Researchers studying small band social dynamics, including anthropologist Robin Dunbar, whose work on group size and social cognition gave us Dunbar's number, consistently find that tighter social networks produce faster behavioral adaptation. You figured out your flaws because people told you about them, directly, probably around a fire. Modern dating apps, by contrast, have created a system specifically optimized to keep you uncertain enough to keep swiping. Prehistoric rejection was brutal. Modern rejection is engineered. I'm not sure which is worse. Here's what I actually think. The disaster of dating isn't a modern invention. It's not caused by algorithms or phones or commitment-phobic millennials or any of the things people blame. It was always a disaster. We've just found a new container for the exact same ancient chaos. The caveman with the fox-tooth necklace standing there getting rejected in front of his entire social circle, that's all of us. Every failed match, every unanswered text, every awkward first date is just the latest episode of something that started around campfires 40,000 years ago. The only difference is he couldn't screenshot it. If this video genuinely surprised you anywhere, drop a comment with which fact hit hardest. Mine is still the speed one. We have everything they didn't, and somehow it takes us longer. Think about that.